So I'm working on this again, even though I have a little smudge that I did last time. That's why I put it away for a day, because I got frustrated. Anyway, I've been thinking about what I've been using for this. Because I didn't want to do watercolor. I've been using acrylic inks. And I don't think that they're very good for this because the areas are so large and it dries so fast. And acrylic inks are nice because they're waterproof, but that means that they are not reactivated by water. So if I'm coloring an area here, for example, hold on. If I'm coloring an area here and I need to redip my pen or something and go to redip it, maybe that's already dried. By the time I come back to it, it acts like I'm putting another layer on top. So it will be darker. And unlike with watercolor, you can't re-wet it and blend, which is unfortunate. So I think I might try liquid watercolors because I think that that will give me the same degree of control that I like with inks. But then they'll be re-wettable and they'll stay wet a little longer. Because what I'm mostly using for this, like the reason why there are these textures here is because I was using this nib. This is a Kakimori brass nib. I like dip pens, mostly for lines, but these can be sort of used as a paintbrush replacement. It's like, here, this is my nib holder. My regular nibs look like, here's a regular G nib, right? Everyone knows what that looks like. And that is useful for lines because it's very precise, and then you can see that like when you press down on it, it does this, which allows you a degree of control of the width of the lines, so you can do very light or you can press down and do wider lines. So that's really nice for lines. I find paintbrushes to be frustrating because it's hard for me to attain the degree of control over where the pigment is going with paintbrush. Once I have the pigment on the page, using the paintbrush to move it around is easy for me. But that's kind of why I really like glass nibs, which hold the ink here in these ridges. And they're much less scratchy than the metal nibs. Like you skate them over the surface of the page. You're hardly pressing down at all. And I really like that because it never damages the paper. And then these are like a proprietary type of nib. I have a stainless steel one as well, where they actually remind me a lot of glass nibs. I'm trying to get my camera to focus. They hold the ink like in this reservoir inside of the nib. Come on, man. Okay, it's just not happening. Whatever. There we go. So you can see like there are these slits here, and the ink travels down those to the tip of and you can also use the side of it. So in that way, it's more like a paintbrush. You can make a mark using the tip, or you can kind of angle it and get a much wider stripe there. So I like that. And that is why there are these texture marks on this guy. Not because they're scratches. I realize that in film, they kind of look like scratchy. But it's actually because of the way that this nib lays the ink down. It means that there's like more concentrated amounts of ink in these little places, and then the way that the ink dries, because it's acrylic ink, it dries really fast and it's water fast, so it's drying in a way where like the texture, I guess, of the nib is laying it down like that. And if it took longer to dry or was less water fast, then it would be more of a flat wash kind of effect. So I think that would be nice because I prefer the precision of being able to lay down washes with these nibs, and I like that you can use them with liquid watercolors and other mediums that are kind of like that, which would be a lot harder to do with like a regular nib, but there's a little more control than with a brush, although I like a brush like I don't know, I find it easier to lay it down with this nib and then come back in with the brush to move stuff around. Anyway, I just wanted to make this because I was just talking about it to myself, and then I was like, hey, maybe someone else would want to hear about it. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about while I'm doing this. I'm trying not to get frustrated because that's kind of why I've been making a bunch of art, is so that I can kind of understand how my materials are interacting and get a sense of like what I work with best and what effects I can get with what and what makes me angry to work with so that I won't want to work with it again. Like the only